The October Federal Reserve meeting concludes on the 29th, and in all likelihood, that central bank will deliver a 25 basis point interest rate cut. That said, there still is potential for volatility around things like the monetary policy statement, the Fed's plans for its balance sheet, and Chairman Powell's press conference. I'm Matt Weller, Global Head of Research for StoneX's self-directed brands, and in today's short video, I'm going to tell you everything that you need to know ahead of the FOMC meeting. Getting the elephant in the room out of the way first, the Federal Reserve is almost fully expected to cut interest rates by 25 basis points to below 4%. As you can see here on the CME's FedWatch tool, that move is essentially 99% discounted by traders. And, spoiler alert, looking ahead to December, another 25 basis point interest rate cut is about 95% discounted as I speak to you now. So it seems likely that the Fed's path is set for the rest of the year, barring any surprises. That might lead you to conclude that there won't be any volatility around today's Fed meeting or this week's Fed meeting, but that may indeed be the case. However, there are a couple wild cards to watch. One is how the Federal Reserve characterizes the ongoing US government shutdown. As you can see here, prediction market traders at Kalshi are thinking this could last all the way into November. That would be the longest US government shutdown on record, which of course weighs on the economy through a lack of wages for federal workers and some contractors. However, it also essentially ties the Fed's hands by limiting the close to real-time economic data that the Federal Reserve relies on to make decisions. Essentially, I view it as a massive freighter. The U.S. economy and Federal Reserve policy are on a path. That freighter has lost power, so there's nothing that's going to change it, and in all likelihood, that's why we'll get continued interest rate cuts from the Federal Reserve, barring any sort of surprise. I expect a nod to this government shutdown in the FOMC statement, and I expect it to feature very prominently in Fed Chairman Powell's press conference. The one that could cause some volatility in markets and what I see as the key thing to watch in this month's Federal Reserve meeting are plans for the balance sheet. Fed Chairman Powell recently noted that he thinks it's about time to wind down quantitative tightening, or essentially where the Federal Reserve has let assets on its balance sheet mature and run off. As you can see here, the Fed's balance sheet reached a peak close to $9 trillion in assets back in 2022. It's been gradually declining since then and now is around 6.6 trillion. If the Fed formally announces a date when that QT program is likely to end, that would be seen as supportive of the economy, something that could ease financial conditions. And as a result, we could see risk assets spike in response to that announcement, and it could be seen as more of a risk-on move. If we don't see that announcement, traders expecting it, including myself, might be a bit surprised, and we could see a bit of a downside reaction even if the Fed delivers the expected 25 basis point interest rate cut. The other key factor to watch will be Fed Chairman Powell's testimony. If he hints at additional interest rate cuts as we move into 2026 or beyond, that's where we could see more of a dovish interpretation of the Federal Reserve meeting and where we could see those risk assets rally further. Whereas if he's a little bit more skeptical, suggests that interest rates are approaching a break-even level, that's where we could see perhaps some downside in risk assets like stocks, like the Australian dollar, and like higher yield bonds and things like that. So there's still a lot to play for. Even if the Fed delivers the expected 25 basis point interest rate cut, you'll certainly want to tune in for any updates on the balance sheet and Fed Chairman Powell's press conference. Again, I'm Matt Weller, Global Head of Research for StoneX's self-directed brands. And if you're not already, please do subscribe to our YouTube channel at StoneX Official if you're not already for more updates like this. Thanks and best of luck with your trading.